Hey everybody, it's Scott Shetler and welcome to this week's episode of Strength and Health TV. This week I want to talk a little bit about the business of personal training and my experience in the health and fitness industry for as long as I've been doing it, and also answer some questions that I've gotten from a lot of personal trainers who are just starting out, or for some people who are interested in personal training. Some people have asked me some various questions about, getting into business. Should they become an employee? Should they focus on opening up their own place? And just all kinds of questions that are pertaining to business. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about my experience in the industry and then answer some of those questions to hopefully help share some information that I've learned along the way and some mistakes that I've made and some successes that I've had. So first about me, I got into the personal training industry back in 1998 is when I started. I was working for the downtown Akron YMCA. It was the Canal Park YMCA. When I was still living in Ohio, I worked there for about a year as both a personal trainer, and then eventually I took an administrative job with them as an office manager, but I kept doing the personal training and fitness side of things. And that was really where I started and really got used to working with people in the gym, experience working with them, helping them develop fitness programs and things like that. I'd say that was a really good opportunity for me. It was a great experience because it allowed me to get used to working with people, to develop those kind of interpersonal skills that are required when working with different types of people, different populations on their health and fitness programs. So it was a great time because it wasn't one of those jobs that was just focused on the sale, selling personal training. In fact, when I started, we just did our fitness, floor hours is what we got paid for, and we just worked with people. We didn't really have much of a personal training program, so there wasn't that pressure to just go after the sell, which is kind of cool because I wasn't exactly a gifted salesperson. So I started with the downtown Akron YMCA from 98 to 99. I worked for them. And then eventually I moved to Atlanta in 99, and I started working for a private fitness center at the Dunwoody Country Club, where I was a full-time trainer. And during this whole time, I was working on certifications and also finishing up my degree. My first certification was from the American Council on Exercise, ACE, and eventually I switched to the National Strength and Conditioning Association, got certified by the NSCA. My degree is in health and physical education. Health and physical education. And when I started, when I got into the industry, after about a year or two, I really had the idea that I wanted to get into the strength and conditioning side of things and eventually go work for a team, whether that was going to be at the collegiate level or maybe even at the professional level. I just thought that that's what I wanted to do until I think it was 2003. I got to spend a day with a professional football team in their strength training room. Their strength coach was awesome. He was incredibly gracious with his time for allowing me to go in there, but after seeing what went on in there, I decided that I definitely didn't want to get into the team environment. Nothing against it, it just wasn't for me. I decided then that I was going to go into the private arena and just work with people individually. That way I figure if people are coming to me and they're paying money for my services and they're paying me to help me with their programming, they're going to do what I say, or we're going to work together and they're going to give me just as much as I'm giving them. We're going to work really well together with the goal being optimal program development for their goal. The thing that kind of didn't sit well with me, and even though this was a pro team, I thought I'd go in and see all these athletes just, going to town, training hard, training heavy and stuff, and it really wasn't that case. A lot of them didn't seem like they were that serious about it. Some of them were training really, really hard. Some of them were just in there kind of screwing around. And while I saw respect for that strength coach, I didn't really see a lot of people that really cared a whole lot. And it just wasn't an environment that I thought, hey, if I'm doing this full time, I don't know if I eventually want to end up in an environment like that where I can't really control much. You can control the program, you can control things, but ultimately, the athletes are going to do what they want to do. Now, I know that's a little bit different, maybe at the high school level where the coach has a little bit more control, and even more, at the collegiate level where the coach has more control. So I didn't really, I decided I just didn't want to lock myself into that type of situation. Nothing against it. I've got some friends who are some fantastic strength coaches, but it just wasn't for me. I like the private industry much better. I can work with a wide variety of clientele. I can, it's cool because I might, work with a swimmer, a tennis player, a football player, mixed martial artist, general health and fitness type person, and everybody, every goal is its own little puzzle. So it allows me a lot of variety. I can learn a lot. I can develop my skills even better and working with different demographics and different goals and stuff. So it's pretty cool. I like that environment much better. But like I said, the strength and conditioning arena just was not for me. But huge respect for the people that do it and the people that do it well. I know some fantastic strength coaches who do an amazing job, and they're really some of the best in the biz. So after deciding I didn't want to be a full-time strength coach, I went into the private sector, started working out of my basement, and then eventually got into a commercial facility. And I say commercial facility just outside of my basement. It wasn't like a big LA Fitness or whatever. I just opened up my own studio in a small storefront type of space. And now I'm in kind of a mixed-use office warehouse kind of space, which is where a lot of private strength and conditioning professionals end up setting up shop because the overhead's pretty low and you can usually get a decent amount of space in that type of environment. So my business now, like I said, is all goal-based. I don't really believe I do some small group training, but I don't believe in the class type of format because I want to work with people more on an individual level. Most of the people, I'd say 95 or greater percent of the people that come to me, it's all one-on-one training. It's all goal-based. It's all done after a needs analysis, whether they're an athlete, whether their goal is health and fitness. It's all done specifically. All the programming is designed specifically for that person and what it is they're trying to accomplish. And I think that's really what should be expected from a personal trainer. We should be operating at a level of professionalism that allows us to work with a wide variety of clientele. Or, if you're going to specialize, if you want to specialize maybe just in weight loss or just in bodybuilding, you should be very open about that when setting up your business and your marketing plan. But my business now, all goal-based, all after a thorough needs analysis. And I do everything from in-person training here at my private training center to online coaching for people that need help just with program design. I do a lot of speaking engagements. I've gotten into writing. I've authored and co-authored a bunch of books. So there's a lot of stuff that I do outside the four walls here in my private training center. But that's just a little snapshot of my business. Like I said, it's all goal-based and all set up on a one-on-one basis. So to answer some of the kind of questions that I get from trainers or prospective personal trainers or people that are looking to get into the health and fitness industry, there's a few things that I would recommend. There's some things that would hopefully help you make better decisions than I made starting out. I didn't have really a lot of education or experience getting into running my own business. I'm definitely not a quote-unquote business person. I'm definitely more of a hands-on, type of person. I don't know much about managing business. I don't know about things like taxes and, all that stuff or liability and all that. I just know, gotta have my liability insurance. I gotta pay my taxes, and hopefully you get a good accountant. So it's not gonna be about that side of the business. It's gonna be about more getting into the health and fitness profession. So first of all, you have to decide, is this really what you want to do? I think a lot of people get into it because they're used to hanging out in the gym. They're kind of a gym rat. They're working out and they think, hey, I'm spending all day at the gym. Why don't I just become a trainer? And I think that mentality and that approach to getting into the industry has been one of the things that's really kind of made the personal training field look really, really bad, because unfortunately our field is there's not really any professional accreditation that we all have to adhere to. There's not really an accepted standard that we all have to meet. Now, granted, there are some better certification organizations that are nationally accredited, but outside of them being nationally accredited, it really doesn't amount to jack. They're all basically the same information, from the anatomy, the biomechanics, and the kinesiology standpoint. The books are almost identical. So there are some nationally accredited organizations, but it's not like we have to pass any state boards or anything like that. It's not like, if you're at the athletic training level, or if you're at, some type of medical level or something like that, like a physical therapist or even massage therapists, that have to be licensed by the state. They've got to pass, certain more stringent requirements than personal trainers do. Really anybody can call themselves a personal trainer, and it's probably a good idea if they purchase some liability insurance, but they can operate without a certification. So it's kind of scary when you think about it. But again, is this what you really want to do? Do you have a passion for working with people, for helping people accomplish their goals? If you are not really a people person, or you don't really care much about helping people, it's probably not the right move for you. If you're just thinking that, hey, it's a way for me to get paid and hang out in the gym all day, Yeah, you could do that, and you might be able to scrape together a living, but you're not going to make a lot of money, and you're not going to be very successful, and you're probably ultimately going to be really, really unhappy with your career choice. So, if it is something that you're willing to put a lot of work into, a lot of hours of study, a lot of time into education, networking, and really building up your skills, if it's something that you're just really passionate about and you don't mind doing it all day, practically every day, then it's probably the right thing for you. First, you got to look at certifications, education, and things like that. Well, I don't think certifications are the be-all, end-all. It is a place that you've got to start. You do have to have a background. You do have to have a working understanding of the human body, basic anatomy, biomechanics, kinesiology, just human movement. You've got to understand, how the body moves to produce an exercise. You've got to understand what joints are involved in a squat, what the stabilizing muscles are, what the prime movers are, what the assisters are. You've just got to have that background so that you understand basic biomechanics, basic human movement as it relates to exercise and various strength training movements. So definitely get a nationally accredited certification. There are a lot out there, but the ones off the top of my head, of course, because I'm National Strength and Conditioning Association certified, I definitely recommend looking into them. There's the NASM, the National Academy of Sports Medicine. There's ACE, the American Council on Exercise. There's ACSM, which is the American College of Sports Medicine. Those are the ones that hit me off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others that are nationally accredited, but those tend to be, the ISSA is another big one. So those 4 or 5 right there are probably a good place to start. Definitely recommend checking them out on the web and learning more about what they offer and deciding which one is the best fit for you. So definitely look at getting a certification and make sure it's nationally accredited. A degree is not required to be a personal trainer, although some college training might not be a bad idea. Degrees in exercise physiology, degrees in biology, anything in the human sciences would not be a bad idea, because you're going to learn about the body. You're going to learn, anatomy. You can learn about biomechanics through an exercise science program. I don't think that when it comes to the information being presented as far as strength training methods and things like that go, again, even a degree is not going to be the be-all and end-all, just like a certification's not. Once you've got the piece of paper, once you've got the certification, once you got the degree, you've got to continue learning. You've got to get out there and study from the people in the industry that are doing what you want to do, the ones who are successful. If you want to get into the strength and conditioning side, look at the top strength coaches who are producing the best athletes and what they do. If you want to become a general health and fitness personal trainer, look at the top personal trainers that work, that have a lot of success working with the general public, whether it's weight loss or muscle gain and things like that. If you want to get into bodybuilding, look at what the top bodybuilders or trainers do. Everybody, there's no new path to success. Somebody's already discovered it, and somebody's already doing really, really well in doing what you want to do in the industry. So just look at what they did. If you can, talk to them, ask them questions. I'm always more than happy to spend time talking with people who want to get in the health and fitness industry. I had a lot of people that have given me information, that have given me advice and tips, and you've got to turn around and help people out as well. You've got to keep an open stream of information going. You've got to share your experiences, the things that you've learned, your successes, your failures. You've got to use all that stuff to help other people. You can't take the approach that there's not enough business out there for you, that if you help somebody out that you're going to be training your competition. It's stupid. There's so many people out there that need help. You've got to pass on the information. So a degree and or a certification are definitely a good idea to look into. If it's going to be a collegiate degree, make sure it's something in the human sciences, biology, maybe exercise phys, kinesiology, something like that. I'm not saying don't go on and get a bachelor's, a master's, or even a doctorate. That's totally up to you how much education you want to undertake. But just realize that to be a personal trainer, it's not required. If you're going to get into strength and conditioning, if you're going to get into something more, maybe research-based, if you're going to get into something on the exercise science or exercise physiology side, yeah, you're going to have to get some type of higher education, most likely some type of postgraduate work, in order to establish yourself, in order to, give yourself a better chance at getting some of the better jobs and things like that out there, because it is a very competitive industry. And the other thing is networking. talk to a lot of professors, talk to a lot of exercise phys people, talk to a lot of strength coaches. Build your network, because those are the people down the road that are going to be able to help you out when it comes time to apply for a job, an internship, and whatnot. So certifications and degrees first and foremost, after you have made the decision that this is something that you want to do. After that, after you've got the certification, after you got the credentials, internships. Volunteer somewhere. You're not going to dive into a job making six figures right off the bat, regardless what some of the internet marketing gurus will tell you. You have got to get experience, and often that experience begins at the beginning, often working for free. It's just how it is. I told you when I was working for as I mentioned earlier, when I was working for the YMCA in Akron, Ohio, I wasn't making a lot of money. I think I was making like $8 an hour, around 16 grand a year back in 1998, I think it was. Wasn't a lot of money even back then, I was doing a lot of free personal training, but it was giving me valuable experience in working with people, learning how to interact with people, learning about different personality types and things like that. If you get experience, you can't put a price tag on it. So internships are very important. Volunteer somewhere that you would want to work. Volunteer somewhere, for a business that is someplace that you could see yourself owning. Get into the niche, the facet of the industry that you eventually want to work. If you want to be a strength and conditioning coach, it's not going to do you any good to go intern with a private trainer who does nothing but health and fitness training. You're not going to learn anything. You might learn something, but it's not going to be as specific to the realm that you want to get into. So find whatever niche that you're actively wanting to pursue and go volunteer. I don't know of anybody who would turn down somebody saying, hey, can I come hang out here for a few hours a day, you not pay me anything, except for maybe answer some questions that I have, or just kind of share your experience with me. Anybody would welcome an extra set of hands in their facility. I can tell you, I do have an internship here. I do have an internship program, and I've had excellent interns and I've had less than excellent interns. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. But if you're going to go intern somewhere, make the business owner's job easier. They're probably going to have some sort of minimum standard or some minimum requirements of some things for you to do to help out around the facility, in turn to get the benefit of them sharing their knowledge with you, them sharing their experience with you. Whether you're doing an internship that's required for a college degree, or whether you're just doing an internship to further your own education and give you experience that you can take as you begin your career. Make the business owner's job easier. If they tell you to sweep the place once a week, do it 3 times a week. If they don't tell you to wash the windows, clean the windows once a week. Do something, man. Just go above and beyond, because after that month, 2 months, 3 months, however long that you spend doing that internship, when it comes time for you to get a job, you might need a referral. And if you go above and beyond and you go back to that business owner and say, hey, I'm applying for this job, can you give me a referral? They're going to bend over backwards to do anything for you. If they even have employees, they may even offer you a job if you're a stellar intern. So always do more than expected. It's going to be a very, very short period of time in the overall length of your career. So the more you put into your internship, the more you put into building those bridges, the more you put into making those contacts and networking with people, the more it's going to benefit you down the road. And like I said, so take the time to volunteer, take the opportunity to intern wherever you can. Try to make sure it's in a niche or an arena in the industry that you want to be involved in, and do everything you can to get as much, get everything out of that you can for you. If you can find a paid internship, great. But know that you're going into your internship not to get rich. You're going into it to gain valuable experience, to build the foundation, to help build the foundation of your career. So you got your certifications, you got your degrees, you got your internship. That time you have to spend working for free. I remember I had this one guy come through one time. He was asking me questions about maybe doing some personal training out of my studio or something like that. And he was debating on whether or not he should stay in Atlanta or move to New Jersey. And I said, well, what's your ultimate goal? And he said, well, I want to move to New Jersey. I said, why don't you move to Jersey now? Instead of 9 months from now or a year from now. Don't spend the time, the money, the energy to build a client base and then just pack up and go, because they're not going to go with you. I said, go to Jersey, take any gym job that you can get your hands on, whether it's a front desk job, folding towels, cleaning toilets. Get your foot in the door somewhere, start working, and then start focusing on setting up your practice up there if that's eventually where you want to end up. And he said to me, he said, yeah, I just paid thousands of dollars for schooling and for this program, this certification program or something. I'm not folding towels. You know what? I wouldn't have, if I was looking for an employee, I wouldn't have hired the guy. He seemed like a nice enough guy, but you know what, if you're going to go into it with that attitude, you know, it's completely pointless. Nobody is above folding towels. Nobody's above scrubbing a toilet. You know, as a business owner with no employees, I'm the janitor, I'm the CEO, I'm the accountant, I'm the human resources, I'm everything, okay? So I've got to scrub my toilets, I got to vacuum my floors, I got to clean my windows. Nobody is above folding towels and scrubbing toilets. When that guy told me that, I wasn't even interested in working with him. I just kind of, you know, let it go, wish him luck. And with that type of attitude, you're not going to do well. So get used to doing the crap work. Go do the crap work for somebody else, and in turn, they're probably going to help you out. But nobody is above scrubbing toilets, and nobody's too good to fold towels. So that kind of drove me nuts. That was a little pet peeve. I don't rant a whole lot, but you know what? I'm very successful in this industry. I've had a lot of success, got a lot of experience, had a lot of good fortunes, and things have worked out really, really well for me. And I still clean toilets, so get used to it. Don't be above it, and don't ever have that attitude, because you know what? Nobody is better than anybody. It doesn't matter what position you have, what your title is. All that stuff is BS anyway. Okay, you strip all that down. Human beings are human beings, and everybody deserves respect. So don't be above that, and don't look down on stuff like that. All right, so we've got certifications, we've got degrees, you got your education, internships, very, very important. Now let's get, you know, more into down the road when it comes time to look at getting into business. Should you be an employee? Should you be a contractor? Do you want to look at owning your own studio and whatnot? I've got opinions on all those, and let's take it employee first. You might have to go be an employee somewhere. You might have to go get a job at a big box gym, doing stuff that you might not exactly love, but knowing that you're not going to do it forever. Again, it's getting you experience. Now you're getting paid to go work with people. It might not be a lot of money, and the business owner might be making the bulk of it. That's fine. You're there for experience. You're not there to get rich, all right? Experience is the most important thing, hands down. You don't need to, you know, especially nowadays with the internet, you see so many people that are promoting on the internet. I think it's great. It's a great way to get your name out there. It's a great way to showcase some of the people that you've worked with and some of the success you've had. But you know what? If you haven't trained anybody, or you're just getting into this, you've been in the industry for a year or two, you don't need to be on the internet, writing blogs, writing ebooks, you know, doing webinars and stuff like that, because you don't know shit. You haven't done anything yet. Get some experience. Work with people. Get to the point that you're working 10, 12 hours a day, training people, you know, get thousands and thousands of hours experience under your belt. Then you've got experience that you can share. Then you've got things that you can write about. Then you've got, you know, case histories of clients that you've worked with, people who've had success, people who've had failures. Now you've got some relevant content that you can actually share. Too many people want to go right to internet superstar, which is completely freaking ridiculous, because none of us are gurus, none of us are superstars, none of us are celebrities. Anytime I hear the term celebrity trainer, I roll my eyes and just think what a douchebag the person is. You know, if you're getting into this just to make a name for yourself or just to get known, you've got other issues you need to deal with it. You should be in this industry to help people. If you're working with athletes, to help them get bigger, stronger, faster. If you're working with general health people, to improve their health, to help them improve their body composition, to help them improve their well-being, to help them improve their quality of life. You're a service professional. You're not a freaking guru, all right? So anybody who is getting into this just so they can have their name plastered all over the internet, waste of time. You know, people can smell BS a mile away. There is a point where you are going to have to do some self-promotion. You are going to have to do some marketing, and it can be done in a tasteful way too. So I'm not anti having a website. I'm not anti having a YouTube page. There's a lot of great information out there. So just make sure that you spend a lot of time working with people, that you spend a lot of time getting some experience, so that way when it comes time to start writing articles, to start writing blogs, to start, you know, getting in front of a camera on YouTube, you've actually got something to talk about and something to share that's going to benefit others. So the benefit to be an employee, well, you might have a paycheck, a fairly regular paycheck, but chances are you're making somebody else a lot of money. So employee is not the optimal situation long term, but getting started out, if it's a way to start making a little bit of cash and get you in the arena that you want to be in, great, definitely do it. And there are better positions out there, and there's some pretty crappy positions out there, and there's something in between. So you're just going to have to find something, get out there, interview at a bunch of different gyms, a bunch of different fitness centers, a bunch of different private facilities, and find what you're willing to trade your time for that paycheck and for that experience. But again, just like the internship at this level, experience is crucial. So go into it with the idea that I'm not going to do this forever, but I'm going to work really hard and do a good job for this person that hired me so that I can further build that foundation that I started with my education, with my certifications, with my internships. Now, if you want to do this long term, eventually you've got to go independent. That's the only way to make a lot of money, to make the kind of money, when you start talking about like the 6-figure trainer and all that crap. That's the only way that you're going to make a lot of money. You're not going to be pulling down over $100,000 a year working at some big box gym. It's just not going to happen. Unless maybe you're like a regional director, of personal training or something like that. But ultimately, I didn't want to work for anybody else the rest of my life. I wanted to be my own boss. I think people that get into private training, get into the independent contractor type thing, that's what it's pretty much going to be your deal. That's what you're getting into it for. You want to run your own business. There's a couple different ways to do it. One, you could be a contractor, which basically means you're going to use somebody else's facility, whether it's a gym or a private training center, and you're going to come to an agreement with that business owner on some type of rent. So you can either pay like a flat rent. To give you an idea, down here in the Atlanta area, somewhere between $500 and $800 a month is pretty normal for a flat rent, and you're going to negotiate that with the business owner, and that's what you're going to pay them. You're going to pay them to use their facility that they pay the overhead on, that they pay the electric, the water, the utilities, the internet, whatever. They pay all those bills. So what you're doing is you're helping them out, with sharing the overhead, and they've bought all the equipment, so you're using their equipment. You're putting wear and tear on their equipment. So before you start saying, well, $500 a month, $800 a month, that's very fair, and that's very low when you look at what they're paying and what they had to do to buy all the equipment and things like that. And you're using that equipment, you're putting some wear and tear on that equipment. So if you can get in somewhere at a flat rate of $500 to $800 a month, I think that's pretty solid. You might be able to find a little bit better, you might have to pay a little bit more, but I think that's a pretty normal range, at least in a big kind of metro area like Atlanta. But so basically a contractor, you are your own business person. You're running your own business. You're paying somebody a rent, whether it's a flat rent or a percent. Sometimes you can work out a percent deal, and this might be a better option if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of clients, and $500 a month might be a lot of money to pay when you don't have much income. So if you could work out a deal where maybe you're paying 30-40% of your take to the gym owner, and then they just take that, that's a good deal until you start making a lot of money. When you're making over, maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, somewhere around there, that's going to stop being a good deal for you, and it's going to start being a great deal for the gym owner. So I don't think a flat out percent share is the way to go long term. Now, I think the optimal situation is a percent share up to a cap. For instance, you start out maybe giving 40% of your take to the business owner until you hit a certain level. Maybe it's 40% until you hit that $800 a month or that $500 a month or $600 a month, whatever, and you just do that on a monthly basis. Or maybe once the first time you hit that, then you transition to just paying a flat rate every month, that $500, $600, $700, $800, whatever. I think that's the best, situation for both people. I don't think, and I'm saying this as a studio owner, I don't think it's fair as a studio owner to take a percent all the way through, if somebody's making 10 grand, 20, 30 grand a month, God, I want to go maybe work for them at that point. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, there should be a point that their rent caps out, or they're just going to go and open their own place, because there's a point where, if you're making enough to pay somebody else $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month, why wouldn't you just go open your small studio and use that money to pay your own overhead, and then you're not capped from that point on. So I think, if you're going to be a contractor, having some type of flat rent or some type of percent split up to a flat rent cap is the optimal. That's the win-win for both parties. And basically a contractor, again, you are your own business person. You're just operating out of somebody else's facility. And generally, when that's the case, you're paying your rent and that's all you're required to do. Everything else is in your pocket. You're running your own business. You're your own business entity. You're going to have to, whether you want to pursue, some type of limited liability corporation or incorporate, whatever, however you decide is the best way to protect yourself as a business entity, you're going to have to pay for your own liability insurance. You're going to have to pay your own taxes. You're just going to give them their rent and that's it, but you're running your own business. And then the other side of the independent coin is the business owner, and that's where you open up your own small studio or larger gyms. Some people might decide that they want to get more into management and have a big team of trainers working for them, and that's probably a great way to make a lot of money, because not only are you making your take if you're still doing training or whatnot, but if you have 5 or 10 really good trainers working for you who are generating a lot of money, and you're taking a percentage of that, that's you can really make a ton of money that way. But you've got to be in a situation where you want to manage people, that you want to take on some employees, or maybe you don't want to take on employees, maybe you just want to have contractors working on your place. That's another option. But for that type of facility, you've got to be willing to put in a lot of work on the management side and manage the business. That's really being a business owner. When you have this entity that is your business, that you're managing, that's your baby, whether you've got employees or contractors working for you to generate the income, it's more on the management side. You're working on the business as opposed to working in the business. If you're a contractor, or if you're like me, you're just an independent who's working out of his own facility, really, you're working in a business. And I guess in my case, I work in and on a business. And if you listen to the E-Myth, I'm not doing it right, but you know what? I love working with people, so I really don't care about that. So as far as being a facility owner, you got 2 options. Maybe you open up your own small space to do whatever the heck you want to do out of it, and maybe you have a contractor or 2 working on your place to help share the rent, or you have a slightly larger, more of a gym type place where you have a few employees or a few contractors working under you so you can help service more people. But you basically have, when you're doing your own thing, an independent contractor or some type of facility owner. What that level is, that's totally up to you. So those are your options when it comes to actually getting into the industry, establishing yourself, and when it comes time to do this as a career long term. And like I said, if you want to make a lot of money, if you want to crack into the 6 figures and start making lots and lots of money and having a really big income, you need to eventually look at owning your own facility and doing your own thing, because you're just not going to do it working for somebody else. So hopefully, those tips help out. Some of the other things that you need to keep in mind, marketing, you have to learn how to sell your service, you have to learn how to promote your service, and in my opinion, you have to learn how to do it in a tasteful way. Let's just be honest, marketing for the most part is sleazy, but it can be done tastefully, it can be done without making outrageous claims. Just, when it comes to marketing your services, don't lie about anything. Be honest about what you do, about the results that you've helped people attain, and just, make it a what you see is what you get. I think people are starting to catch on to the sleazy marketing tactics and things like that. I think that stuff's going to be less and less effective over time. I think what really speaks is results. So start your career working with a lot of people, getting a lot of people great results, documenting these results, get those testimonials, get people talking about you. If you get people excited about the service you provide, you're not going to have any issue getting clients. I don't pay for advertising, I don't pay for marketing outside of paying for a web hosting service, because I do have websites and such online, but I don't pay for advertising, I don't pay for marketing. My clients are my advertising. I get a lot of business word of mouth. I've got fantastic client retention. I've got clients that have been with me over 7, 8, 9, even 10 years. And all my new clients that are coming in right now are referrals from a lot of those clients. So if you do good work and you get people great results, you're not going to have a problem staying busy. Right now I'm hitting about 40 to 50 sessions a week. I'm really busy. I'm doing a lot of online coaching and consulting. I get called for speaking engagements and things. So, it's great. I'm busy all the time. I have a hard time keeping up with stuff, so I'm in a really good position. But I've been doing this stuff for like 18 years now. I put a lot of work in the trenches. I worked for very little pay from the get-go. Like I said, $8 an hour. I actually thought that was big because I was working in a machine shop prior to that, making $6 an hour. But I started out making $8 an hour, 16 grand a year, and now I've got a business that's doing really well. I've got a lot of income coming in. I got a lot of clients coming in, and I'm able to help a lot of people. But I've been in this game for 18 years, and I'm still learning every day. Every day I try to read something. Every day I try to learn something. I try to network with people. I try to talk to people who are better than me, who are doing more than me, who I want to learn from. This business really, I don't look at it like a business. It's really my life. It's what I do. I love working with people. I love the health and fitness industry. I love the strength and conditioning industry. And you have to have that approach too. Everybody I've met who's done well, as good as I have or better, there's plenty of people out there doing way better than me, and I hope I hit that level eventually one day. But they've all got a passion for it. They love what they do, regardless of the niche that they're in. If they're in bodybuilding or physique transformation or health and wellness or strength and conditioning, they love what they do. They love the demographic of people that they chose to work with, and they love getting people results. And that's what a good trainer, a good coach is going to bring to the table. So hopefully, those tips help you out if you're interested in this as a business, or if you're just interested in, what I've done with my business. Hopefully that gave you some good info. If you've got any questions, feel free to shoot me an email at scott@extreme-fitness.org. That email is going to be down in the notes below the video, or leave some questions in the comments below. But like I said, I've gotten a lot of questions from personal trainers, people just starting out, or people who are interested in getting into the business. So I want to do this video to kind of cover a lot of those concerns, help share some of the things that I've learned along the way. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully you're liking the Strength and Health TV series. So until next week, stay strong and stay healthy.